Welcome back to This is Acsom. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I am delighted to be joined once again by Tommy Sheridan and Jerry Taylor, where we will be talking to former Celtic left-back TOSH McKinlay. So welcome to Barra's Art and Design. TOSH, it's from Barrafield to the Barrowlands. A lot's happening up at Barrafield, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be anywhere, to be honest, Paul. So, no, it's great. You see the structure up now. I go way back till I was 11 years of age at Barrafield. Obviously the history with the lines, and when you were playing there on a Saturday you could hear the roar of the crowd, you could see the floodlights, so it was a big ambition to eventually play at Celtic Park one day.
I heard that quite recently. I think they went up, Tommy, to talk about the development of it, and they said the importance, I think it was Brendan Rodgers that said it, the importance of being able to look up there when you're at Barrafield and see Celtic Park, so that's what you're aiming towards, Tommy. That must, for a guy like Tosh, 11, 12-year-old, that must be massive.
But Tosh, you lived the dream, mate, that we all wanted to live in terms of supporting the boys, getting to play for the boys. But I find your career totally inspirational because you went a long way around. You know, you're with the boys' club. For whatever reason, things don't develop automatically in a straight line. You're away playing with Dundee, playing with Hearts. You come as a 30-year-old, and for 5 years.
That, Tommy, get it right. It was 29.
Sorry, but
this service
also, Tosh, not only do you star for us and play a fantastic role over 5 seasons, but you're called up to Scotland as well. You end up playing European Championships, World Cup. I mean, absolutely brilliant.
Well, that's the urban myth that everybody talks about, and I knew I was going to get a Scotland cap because I just signed for Celtic. So that's the thing. Right. Probably wasn't playing any different for Dundee or Hearts, but you're more in the limelight when you sign for Glasgow Celtic, and lucky I got the cap, and it was at 29, first cap against Greece, and then lucky enough to go to France 98. And I always tell the story standing in the tunnel next to Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Roberto Carlos, Cafu. There was that many famous faces in that tunnel. I was the only one I didn't recognise. So it was brilliant. You know, Euro 96 was accessible for everybody to go. France 98 against the world champions, and that's how I think the boys have been a wee bit unfortunate the other night. The opening game could be a hit or a miss. You know, we go down to 10 men, but I fully believe that they've got a great manager in place. They've got the players. My captain's a serial winner, Andy Robertson, Kieran Tierney. They've got players that can certainly go and beat Switzerland tonight.
Do you know, there's loads of points I want to come back at in terms of some of the potential, because you've mentioned Andy Robertson there, and you used to be, I think, a wee while, you did a bit of football agent. I'm just wondering if you know how it works, and if we can tap up Andy if he's interested.
No, Kieran first.
Well, that's the route I'm hoping to go down, Tosh, to get some light for you, because I know you need to be guarded. You're still working with the club and things like that. You need to be careful. But can I just say, and I don't want to blow smoke up your arse or anything, right? I've only got to know you in the last few years. And you know, you're one of the warmest and nicest guys I've ever met. You're so down to earth. I mean, I read one of your comments about you going through the tough time when Wim was there, and you were struggling to get into the team, get into the pool, and you made a point about reminding everybody that football was one of the jobs that even when you're not working, you're getting paid. You know, that doesn't happen in other jobs. And I thought to myself, you need to come from working class stock to actually understand that. So I just take my hat off to you, but I mean, you're an absolute tribune to the sport.
I appreciate that, Tommy. That's very nice. And obviously TB signed me, and at that time we were chasing Rangers. I think it was a runaway train, 6 in front, maybe 6 in a row. 7 was at Hampden, 8 back at Celtic Park, and then obviously the 9 in a row season. But I still speak to people now that say that it's the best football they've seen since the Lions, you know, and that kind of brand of football, that's what Celtic's all about. We're cavalier at times, we admit that, but it was part of my DNA to get forward, and Tommy Burns encouraged me to do that, and I know Jackie was on last week, unfortunately talking about the Larson thing right enough.
We grassy McNamara.
Exactly. Let the cat out of the bag here. But it wasn't my best decision ever. It hit the most high profile player that the club's had for the past 40 years.
But Tosh, see if you're going to do it, if you're going to steal a car, you're going to nick a Ferrari, aren't
Well,
you?
exactly. I found myself languishing in the reserves, and I went to Chap Jansen's door one day and I said, Mr. Jansen, why man the second team? He said, because we don't have a third team. It's an old gag, but
No, it's dead appropriate. It's dead appropriate.
We've got to talk about that then, since you've brought it up. So, I mean, a lot of people say if it hadn't come about, you might not have went on to have the success that you had. So, do you think, would you recommend that if a team's struggling, put the nut in the best player?
I wouldn't recommend it for myself, maybe somebody else, because I think there was one week we were struggling for injuries and John Clark actually ended up on the bench. And Nix was Angie the kit woman, so I definitely found myself out in the cold about it. But I've said to Paul John, if it wasn't me and Henrik, it would have been somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that just kind of cleared the air. Because Jackie spoke about playing the reserves against the first team and creating a wee bit of animosity, but it certainly wasn't my best decision ever, but it was...
But Tosh, I think what Jackie said was dead good from your point of view, because the point he was making was, it wasn't because you and Henrik were having a go at each other, it was just that the air, it could have been anybody, it could have been anywhere in the park, and these things happen at training sessions, don't they? You've got to get tied in. You probably were in a state of mind at the time, you were unhappy, you weren't getting into the team the way you wanted to get into the team. And by the way, see if you're there and you're at Celtic and you're no angry you're not getting in the team, you shouldn't be there.
Well, correct. Yeah. And I've spoke to Paul about it as well. At least there wasn't footage of it, like John Hartson and Alberkovic. Then
that's true. You imagine nowadays, I know, it would have been captured somehow.
Yeah.
It was like I was saying there last week. I saw someone had taken a wee trip down to Barrafield to try and get the progress of it. There's always somebody with a phone now, Tosh. You know. Yeah. But one thing I was going to say about that, even though it might have put you out of favour for a while, Craig Brown stuck by you, didn't he?
He encouraged me. I had to go out and loan to Stoke. Unfortunately, so I had a couple of games at Stoke, but he said, look, you need to go out to play if you want to go. But I played in all 10 qualifiers to get us to that magnificent spectacle, and then he obviously stuck by me to take me to the tournament. It was a sweat right enough, but to come on in that opening game against the world champions really was a highlight, you know.
In the tunnel was a famous story about Craig Brown. Could you, what was it you said again, you're standing in the tunnel?
I stand in the tunnel, look right in their eye. I couldn't see in their eye because Ronaldo was about 6'2" or 6'3", and then the classic line, they're absolutely shiting themselves. So, I don't think so.
Did you all laugh at that moment? Did it take pressure off, or were you just like, shut up?
No, but the thing is, you think you can go out and beat Brazil, or else you wouldn't be at the tournament, and we were whisked away, and I think we deserved at least a draw that day, as in Euro 96 against England. I think when we get the penalty, I looked around, you always look at people's reaction, and they were saying, they nicked this penalty here, we're in trouble, you know. Unfortunately, Gaza went up and scored that goal, so that's
Tosh,
what
see what you've said there. I think it's brilliant that you've made the 2 points, because you gave two examples, and I know no two games are ever the same in that respect, but Brazil, England, big teams, favourites for competitions, Scotland draw them and go out and go toe to toe.
Yes.
That's my complaint about Germany the other night. I felt as though we didn't go toe to toe. We gave them too much respect. There's a difference in there, surely, in football. Giving people respect and giving them too much respect.
Well, I take that point, but the first 10 minutes were crucial. We lose the goal in the first 10 minutes and then everything seemed to collapse, you know. But you're right, my team was full of experience. Gary McAllister, John Collins, Tom Boyd, Colin Henry, Colin Calderwood, real experienced players. McCoist up front, Stuart McCall in midfield. So Gorham in goals, you know. If you've got Gorham behind you, then you've got a chance, you know. But I think the way the game developed, we didn't really get a foothold in the game, and then they scored the goal after 10 minutes, and then it kind of collapses. But the the sending off was crucial as well, because if you get down to 10 men, even in the domestic game, you struggle.
It reminded me of the Maida thing, Atletico Madrid away. You'll go down to 10 men, you've had it. You can pick it to pieces.
They just keep possession. Tony Cruz was
outstanding.
He's unreal. Nobody really get near him, and he just flits about the 10-yard radius in midfield and starts spraying balls about. People ask you about the highs and the lows. You've mentioned the 2 games, England at Wembley and Brazil in the opening game of the World Cup. The lows, and you'll remember this, the game that never was, the game in Estonia. The referee blew for the kick-off, 2 seconds later blew for time up. We're trudging off the part a bit dejected. Remember, he tapped my army hands over the top and said, "McKinlay, that's the best game you've ever." He wasn't kidding either.
You know what? I sometimes wonder, Tosh, that World Cup squad, 8 Celts were in that squad, you and 7 of your teammates. What's it like, the dynamic? I mean, I've heard in the past England squads, brilliant collection of players, but there was kind of fractions within the squad. So the Man U guys would sit together. What was the Scotland squad like?
No, it was totally fine. You've already mentioned there was 8. There was young guns like Jackie McNamara and Simon Donnelly, experienced ones like myself and Boydie, John Collins. So no, it was totally fine, because I'd already played for other clubs and came across other players. So at that time, it's just about getting the squad together, a happy camp. Everybody mucking in, whether you're playing or not. It was always encouraged by Craig Brown. Everybody's the same, and you don't know when you're going to get your opportunity, so it was great.
See, when you think about all those characters from both sides in the city playing for the national team, it must have been not only a mad dressing room, but so many leaders as well. So how does the hierarchy work? Do you all just band together, or is there always one that rises to the top that everyone listens to?
No, well, the captain was Colin Henry, big Braveheart, so he used to coordinate everything today with what you were wearing. Obviously the kilts was a big factor at the opening game. That was fantastic. That's an amazing memory to have coming out the opening game of the World Cup with the kilts on. So he was the leader, and the leader then takes his, off the manager. He coordinates with the manager as well, but everything was fine. Again, we were unlucky, especially in Euro 96, to lose. Well, Holland scored the goal in virtually the last couple of minutes to put us out in goal difference, which sticks in the throat a wee bit.
Aye.
Again, that season was brilliant for yourself personally, Celtic and all your teammates. You then go to the World Cup, but we've lost our manager back home. How are you able to switch off from that, Tosh? With Wim Jansen walking away after winning the double.
Yeah, but you've just got to go on, because the guy he brought in, the greatest goal scorer that I've ever played with, and probably the greatest player, then he's got to stay, and he sees Wim walking out the door, So when the new manager comes in, it was Joseph Venglos, who then people think that was the end for me, but I then kicked on and I got a few games. I think I played over 20 games the next season. So there's always an opportunity when a new manager comes in.
See, Dr. Joe, you might have been at the game, Tommy. We beat Sporting Lisbon at Celtic Park 5-0. Your old pal Frank McGarvey scored that night. Dr. Joe was the manager of Sporting Lisbon that night, and he comes to Celtic, obviously with bags of experience, but he was ridiculed in many ways in the Scottish press, Tosh. What was he like as a manager? Because I think he was kind of ahead of the curve in many ways.
No, he was, and he had a lot of good ideas. And Wim Jansen was ridiculed as well. Yeah. They didn't know anything about women when they came. So
he'd only won a couple of European Cups.
I know,
in the World Cup final.
I know they didn't really do their homework there.
We're still doing it though. We did it with Ange as well.
Correct. So there's a wee kind of theme here, really. So you've got to work out, Paul John. So it's about people coming in, working their methods, and then you've got to try and put them into practice. But a lovely fella. You're talking about that iconic game, 5-0. I remember Tommy Burns' goal at the back post in that game, the lime green kit. Absolutely fantastic that night. I was at the game myself, so there was a lot of great European memories.
Where did you go? Jungle?
No, I was in the Rangers end, because I think the Celtic end was packed, and I ended up getting a slot in the Rangers end.
I love hearing that, and I think that's why we're always, when it comes to Tierney, we're always thinking, I'd love him to come back, because he's the real deal, Tommy. He's a Celtic man playing for the jersey. Tommy Burns, as Tosh has mentioned, and we'll speak about Tommy. I think a club like Celtic, that's vital. You need that, and that is a heartbeat of your football club. You need a group of players that know exactly what it's all about.
I would argue, Tosh, I don't know if you'd agree with me, that the way Brendan wants his fullbacks to play is more suited to the likes of yourself if you were still playing, or Kieran, because in that first 3 seasons with us, Kieran was balling up and down. I mean, the amount of times he either scored goals or put the ball in for Dembele to score goals. So in terms of this signing summer, surely he's going to bring in somebody that can maraud like that. I hate talking about this because obviously Greg's there, and Greg does a great job, and has never let us down in that respect. But he doesn't have the pace, doesn't have the physicality that I think could take us to the next level. Is that something that you think is going to happen?
Well, at the end up the manager, top manager, so he'll identify what positions he wants to strengthen in the summer, and then we've got to try and go through our stuff and get that whatever position he's looking for, you know. So, but back to the point about growing up a Celtic supporter. We used to pick up, me and my dad used to pick up my granddad at Charing Cross. We used to get the train to Belgrove. There used to be a pub called the Shandon Bells in the Gallagate, and I used to get put outside by the sweeties and kind of talk, and they used to go out and have a couple of pints, and that was the ritual on a Saturday. My first game was against Celtic, against Morton. John Clark was actually playing for Morton, 1972. First Scottish Cup final was at the end of that season when Dixie got the hat-trick against Hibs. 108,000 people at Hampden Park, and I'm thinking, wow.
In fact, you corrected me.
Yeah,
you corrected me. I put a wee thing. You tell him.
You thought it was Paul Wilson.
Jesus.
Get your facts right.
Terrible.
You thought Paul Wilson played in the game, but it was skipped to
Lou.
It was Lou McCarry.
Lou skipped to Lou.
Skipped
to Lou McCarry.
So it's in the blood. You know, that's the thing.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking, wow, I want to play for Celtic, and obviously you've already mentioned I lived the dream. Always my ambition to pull on the famous green and white hoops, but it can be a harsh place as well, as you know. Coming outside the doors of Celtic Park one day, this old boy was standing and said, "Tosh, I compare you to that great Brazilian left back Roberto Carlos. Compared to him, you're pish." Very harsh with his monk.
Here's my sound bite for this week.
But Tosh, the point is, you've just talked about it being a harsh. You look at the road you've done. Because tell us, you're playing with a school, you get picked up, you play with a boys' club.
Yeah.
So how long were you with a boys' club?
4 years, under 12 to under 16. But my dad done a very psychological thing.
Right.
It was December, and he must have been half in the sick or whatever. But he was going down to the yard. He used to work in John Brown's.
Okay.
God rest his soul, I lost him last summer, but he was obviously a handful of games that he missed in my career. But he said, "Come down with me to the yard. I'm going down to," I don't know what happens at that time, you go down to pick up your wages or whatever. So he said, "See that hole there?" He was a welder. He said, "That hole, I lie under there for 8 hours a day. Now you're going to Dundee in a couple of weeks in trial. See if you don't cut it up there, you might be lying under that hole for 8 hours a day for the rest of your days. Now make your mind up." So I think a wee psychological thing like that made me run a wee bit faster and a wee bit longer when I went to Dundee. Yep. So there's always wee life stories that you remember, and that was one that he.
So
did.
at 16 you get invited up to go to a trial at Dundee.
I was with the boys' club, and everybody earmarked me for signing for Celtic.
Right.
But there was a scout called John Ward, who his boy he played in the team, but he left, and he identified that I wasn't actually signed on S form for Celtic.
Right.
Invited me to, it was actually Strathclyde Park, and Dundee used to bring a team down to play against Glasgow Select.
Okay.
Showed up well that night, and then Donald Mackay invited me up for a 2-week trial. And I must admit, when I got there, I thought, I like this place. You know, when you stepped off the train, everybody made you feel welcome, and I thought it was going to be the best opportunity to get into a first team early, and that's how it transformed. I got in when I was 17, Played my first game at Love Street at the end of the season, and then the following season I was on the verge of the first team, and that was my career away, you know. So I really enjoyed it up there.
We've always asked, all our guests, we've always asked about fitness regimes, Tosh, because you were very fit as well. How did that develop? Was it just something for being a kid?
No, it was. I must admit, my levels went from there to there when they went full time at Dundee, because the Tuesday used to be the running day, and I used to do the running day, and the first team would get the next day off on a Wednesday, but I was still virtually part of the reserve squad, so I was doing my running day plus training the next day, so my levels went from there to there sort of thing. So it was very beneficial, because I was still coming down the road on a Thursday to play for the boys club on a Saturday for half a season, because I went in there mid-season in the December and then went full time at the end of that season. So it was very beneficial, the full-time training.
You're reminding me of the days when you used to play on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and then a Sunday.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, no, that was the case, you know, so that was the case. But I really enjoyed my time there. I had a couple of good seasons at Hearts, even though I was there for 6. So, and then that was the stepping stone to get to Celtic Football Club, and all my dreams came true.
Tosh, so people wouldn't know this, we go way back, we played together in the past, didn't we?
Well, we use that term loosely, to be honest.
In fact, I did come after the time I've been brought in.
Oh, probably.
And what you'd said to me, it was obviously seeing you and sharing that dressing room, it was amazing, and you were obviously dressed the way you are just now.
This is my pyjamas.
I compared to what I look. And I think the first you shook my hand and you said to me, I didn't get the dress down memo for the day, and just relax, man. You were brilliant with me, you were brilliant with everyone in the dressing room. And obviously you've got the links with the Celtic Foundation, and you're always representing the club, and you seem to take just great pride in that. It's been deep rooted in you from a young guy. So I just want you to tell us all about the Celtic Foundation, what it was like that day with Brendan Rodgers turning up with the dressing room, and what it's like to represent Celtic.
Well, it was a way to do an initiative to take the kids to Troon, which the foundation have put in £200,000 so far.
Wow.
And it's been going for 20 years, so that's where I was at the Kelvin Grove, and it's great to see the kids having a day out. You know, the taxis take the kids down to Troon and give them the time of their life, so it's absolutely fantastic. And it's what we're all about, you know. That's where the club were founded, and that's what I like to do my part. And always when they phone me up to do it, I say, who can I do it? So it's usually some coming off the bench for somebody, but it's usually me or Boydie. I've done it for the past couple of years, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, great stuff. I mean, you were in the dressing room, you put a lot at ease. I mean, people can see today, just you're a really funny guy, and you make it easy to be around you. And when Brendan came in, there was a lot of us were quite uptight, especially me, but again, he was the same, put us all at ease, and you seem quite similar that way. Have you got to see how the gaffer is around the players and how he is with ex-players like yourself?
Well, he's brilliant. You know, I was delighted when he come back, because I texted him when it was maybe on, and he said he was going to take a year out, and I'm thinking that was the best option I thought we could get to get Brendan Rodgers back, and that's it proved. He's done a double again, and everything he said during the season, I'll see you here in May. Rangers have came and tried, and that's another one that's we'll have fun at the end of the season, the last game. And then he was adamant that he was going to do the double, and we done it. And there's no better way to do it against Rangers in the cup final. So it was absolutely fantastic, you know. And again, he gets it. You know, he's talking about the Scottish Cup when he was growing up. And Belfast used to be a big thing, you know, like watching the game with his family. And now he's the manager of a Celtic Football Club. Doubles, trebles, success, and that's what he's all about.
See, when he won his award and he got all his staff for the photograph,
yeah,
that was brilliant.
It was like
that was a touch of
that
class, Tosh. It was like, look, maybe I'm at the forefront, but I can't do it without all these guys.
Yeah, it's pure class.
Yeah.
You know, everything he does is, and it's the team effort. You know, I think you see the cup final, he went saw his staff there celebrating with
even Maeda got in that picture, eh?
So another indication of his class, going back to that day with the Rock centenary game.
Oh yeah,
we're all getting the word, oh, Brendan's coming, so we're all excited, Brendan's coming, but you're expecting him to come, say hello, do a couple of waves, and away you go. But he comes at the start of the second half, comes in at the dress, says hello to everybody, comes out, spends the whole half in the dugout, and then, and that's where the character and the class comes in. There must have been about 1,000 people at that game. He goes into the middle of the park and he spent hours getting pictures taken. My wee niece got a picture taken with him, and then comes into the dressing room again, has a sandwich, has a talk. He must have spent easy about 3 hours. Now, if he'd spent 20 minutes, we'd all been like, oh, brilliant, we're in this game. But he goes over and above, and I think that's what you talked there about. He gets it.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that Celtic's in his DNA. There's no doubt about it.
Correct, and he was just after flight in Mallorca as well. He gets after flight, comes up to the Rock with his nice new white training shoes on. I didn't think he was expecting the Rock playing surface was going to be that bad. But it was, again, it's an opportunity for me. I know it was a special strip back then. I love that Shamrock strip. Special strip. Back in the dressing room, players like yourself, an opportunity to play for Glasgow Celtic, you know. I'm 59, I nearly crippled myself playing in that game right enough.
You still had that pass though?
Well, I can't run anymore, but I certainly, you can, if it was walking football then it'd be ideal at that. But
I'm winning walking football, Tosh. You can't say that, I'll get you involved.
Your bet at me was struggling that day, but again, you're bombing up and down that line. But again, dressing room environment, the banter comes out, everybody's joining in, you know. It was absolutely brilliant.
Great. You're talking about the pass. I need to ask you this question. You were talking earlier, Tosh, about the first cup final, or the first cup you seen Celtic winning. You know, the first cup I seen us winning was against Airdrie.
Wow.
Right? That ball, 9th minute, Van Hooijdonk, 1-0. And people used to go on about that ability, Tosh. I mean, I do believe in natural ability, but you've honed that. You've worked on that. It looks as though you did anyway.
No. When I was younger, a coach called Frank Upton used to take me out in the afternoon at Dundee and work it. There was nobody in there, but just hit an area. And it's all about, you know, that's what you do. Practicing, and then eventually when you get that technique and you take it into a game, you know. But I'm only remembered for two things at Celtic Park. The goal in the cup final and sticking Eden Larson. Unfortunately.
Well, hopefully this changes it. I mean, Pierre was saying to us, wasn't he? He was so complimentary.
Yeah, he was.
And how much I agree, how you could just a wizard with the ball. He really was complimentary of him. And you've even said earlier, like we're talking about, saying one of the best strikers we've played with. We've had someone on recently who said if he'd stayed longer, they think he could have been better than the king himself. How would you compare the two?
You played with them all. You played with Lubo, Larson, Van Hooijdonk.
The amigos, Di Canio, Van Hooijdonk, Josh Cadet, Andy Tom, Lubomir Moravcik, Henrik Larsson.
Yeah.
And then you scatter the Scots in there, Paul McStay, the maestro, absolutely brilliant, John Collins, Boydie, the young guns, Jackie McNamara, Simon Donnelly, Peter Grant. Now if you looked around about the dressing room, Peter Grant was in your side, then you were okay. Remember a story, I'll take you back to the dressing room. Tommy Burns is going round before the Rangers game, getting the chalk. He comes to Grant, he says, Grant of the day, Gascoigne, 5 minutes, put him out the game. Grant, he says, but boss, I might get sent off. He says, it's all right, Granty. They'll miss him more than we'll miss him.
That's brilliant.
See, brutal. But Tosh, see in terms of that whole character thing, I've only met Peter in the last couple of years, and I had expected him to be a much angrier man, right? No. He's such a gentleman. He's absolutely brilliant as a gentleman. And I'm thinking, because every time I seen him playing, he was my type of player. I loved the way he stuck in, never say die, but absolute gentleman.
But there's two types of braveness in football. One, he gets stuck in, but one, to take the ball. And Grant continually took the ball when things were tough. But as I say, you look about the dressing room, and people like Tommy Burns and Peter Grant, Celtic through and through, then you know when they're on your side, you've got a chance, you know. And the 95 cup final wasn't the best, but I tell you what, just to go over the line and get that monkey off her back was absolutely fantastic. And go up these steps, you've been there, has seen Celtic getting it, lifting the Scottish Cup. and being part of that was absolutely brilliant.
Must have meant loads for your old fella as well.
Oh, definitely. He was chuffed, you know, because we'd been to loads of cup finals, and to actually know that he's there, going up the stairs, it was brilliant, you know.
That's great. I'm going to rewind a wee bit. We were up in Dundee recently. It was the 75th anniversary of Dundee Travel Club. Incredible that a supporters club can run for 75 years, and we went up to celebrate that, Tosh. But in the crowds was none other than Albert Kidd, right? And he was dressed like somebody out of Miami Vice. He had honestly, the suit jacket and all that was with the sleeves up. He looked very smart.
That's still in style in Dundee.
And it was that day, Tommy, I discovered it was actually Tosh that came off for Kidd to come on against Hearts. You know? So, massive Celtic fans.
Well, you've obviously I've been subbed, right? But I'm going to tell you the by story to that. Week before or 2 weeks before, I'd done my cartilage at Celtic Park. Gets to the Hearts game and the physio said, you can't do any more damage. You're going in on Monday or Tuesday to get the cartilage repaired. See how you go. So I think it was about over an hour. I think it was 10 minutes or 15 minutes to go when Albert came on. So I'd done my bit, I'd tired them out, Paul. And then Albert went on and done the business.
Tosh, what does that tell you about how things were in the 80s?
Absolutely.
You're not going to do any more damage. You've done your cartilage.
It was locked. It was a bucket handle tear in my cartilage, so I could only get so much flexion. But the physio, Eric Ferguson, no going to do any more damage. And I went, all right, okay, I'll take your word for it. So no hobbled about, but I get through and then Albert came on and the rest history sort of thing. You know?
The greatest Celt never to play for the club, or he did actually, and I you know, there's footage of him playing for Celtic in a charity game over in Australia alongside George Best, Willie Wallace, Ben Doak's granddad was playing for another team. I think Joe Miller's dad might have played for Celtic. We'll ask me Joe that. But there he is with the perm and the moustache. But I love all these obscure connections to Celtic, Tommy. And it's brought to mind again, you being here over the last few weeks, you being in the Big Brother house, right? And you represent not just Scotland, because you used to wear the Scotland jersey, but Celtic. You actually got Latoya Jackson into Celtic. Tell us the story. I mean, it's the most obscure thing I've ever heard.
Latoya Jackson was a big star as far as Celebrity Big Brother that year was concerned. I think it was 2009. She was only one ever in the series to get her own room. Everybody else had to share dorms, right? But she got her own room, so that's how much royalty she was. She was a separate room. It was the first time ever they'd done it. However, she didn't really fit in that well, and I used to nip into they called it the luxury bathroom, because it was quiet and it was big, and I used to nip in there to do some sit-ups and press-ups, because it was boredom, absolute boredom.
Not for
on
the cameras
Celebrity Big
at all,
Brother, right? So she comes in this day because nobody else is talking to her, and she says to me, Tommy, everybody says you're a socialist. What's that all about? So I then start getting into a diatribe about public ownership of the railways, equal pay.
Latoya Jackson.
So Latoya obviously is glazing over, and Big Brother must be going mental, thinking everybody's turning off. So the announcement comes over the tannoy. It's Big Brother here. Latoya, for the next 10 minutes, you must repeat everything Tommy Sheridan says. So they don't want me to keep going on about socialism. So I think to myself, I know I'll sing Flower of Scotland. So I started singing Flower. So she started singing Flower of Scotland. And then I thought, the mischievous part of me, I thought, this will wind a few people up in Scotland. So I says, right, hail, hail, that sounds sad. So she's going, hail, hail, that's brilliant, sang it right through, so much so that the bulging Coolio then looks through the door and says, hey man, what's that song? What's that song? I want that for LA Lakers. So he then begins a wee bit of a love affair with Celtic. Once they find out about Celtic, and a number of years later, came to Celtic Park and done the half-time draw. Unfortunately,
brilliant.
He's passed away now.
That
Bob Marley, people are absolutely
there you
brilliant.
go.
It's a unique club.
It is.
But a unique club because of the supporters. The support are absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned McStay there. We were getting tales that Paul McStay has got an alter ego when he's got a drink in him, Tosh. I mean, we just thought he was a quiet living maestro Turns out that he's actually Philippe from Bordeaux.
Philippe from Bordeaux. Listen, I'm going to take Boydie's Fifth Amendment on that.
I was looking at it. There's a lot of them, mate.
I'm not going to go any further.
Is he your roommate?
He's my roommate. So, and just before the cup final in '95, we went to Italy, and Philippe was my roommate. Paul for some of it, Philippe for the rest of it.
I love this.
So,
Did you
what
guys
happens in
name
tour
him
stage
Philippe,
tour?
or did he name himself Philippe?
I can't mind how it came about. But it was long before I got there,
Right.
but it just stuck. But it was him myself.
That's
It was
brilliant.
him myself. So
Let's talk about him as a player though, because he was my hero growing up, Tosh. He was something different. I mean, he was the type of guy that could have played on the continent at the time. I think Juventus were interested when he was about 18 years of age. Played his entire career at Celtic. I mean, that in itself's a dying breed. We've got one with Callum, one with Jamesy, maybe Tony Ralston doing that. But McStay was special, wasn't he?
well, you always talk about players that we bought, but players that come through the ranks and the history of his family as well. What a captain! What a player! Absolutely phenomenal leader, ambassador for Celtic Football Club. He was just a phenomenal player. And I'd obviously had the season with him at the boys' club. He was my roommate in Carney, New Jersey when we were 16, in a guy called Paddy Brannigan's house. That's what they used to do. They used to put you in different houses. So he wasn't Philippe at that time because he wasn't on the booze right enough, but he was my roommate for 3 weeks in Carney, New Jersey, and that's where you actually get to know people.
Brilliant.
You know,
Oh,
get to know
definitely.
their character. So
I mean,
and
see
playing
the-
against him, and then eventually going back to Celtic Park,
Aye.
and he's my captain in '95 when we left the Scottish Cup. Was brilliant.
And then the next stage is you finally getting to play at Celtic Park as a Celtic player. That was massive as well, getting away from Hampden after that season, Tosh, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it sets us up nicely. The couple of friendly games played really well against Newcastle, and again, what's developed at Celtic Park is down to the punters. The biggest issue that in British football, to note, built that stand, the North Stand, and then developed Celtic Park. And now you're seeing an absolutely fantastic arena, and it was great to go back there. You're back home, back at Paradise, and unfortunately, with Tommy Burns, we never won the league, and you're one game away from being an invincible. You don't win it, sticks in the throat a wee bit. But back to the point I was making with Tommy, the brand of football that we played, I think was second to none.
Outstanding.
It was. And when we win one trophy, but so many fans, Tommy, still go look back at Tommy's team. He was a team of entertainers, wasn't he?
Do you know, ironically, I'm sorry to say this, Tosh, but I think you've kind of hinted at it. You were an outstanding team, but the cup final, you were poor.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been internal nervousness, and that you wanted to get. I think it was 6 seasons or something like that before we hadn't won it. So it must have been a tremendous pressure. But throughout the season, it was phenomenal, man. They score 2, we'll score 3. You know, and that cavalier attitude that you're talking about. Every one of you were attacking. You were attacking players, and I just loved it. But I think Tommy once said that Andy Gorham broke his heart. I mean,
yeah.
Andy Gorham, those seasons, was outstanding.
Well, they
And they got a few decisions in Ori, you know.
well, that's another story. You know, they did have a few individuals that could get them the result when going was tough against us, but we'll not go into that, Tommy. So, but we were outstanding that season. The cup final apart, I think John Collins has got a dive in the head of it in the second half. If he scores that, then it would have settled us down a wee bit. But the thing about cup finals, nobody remembers about how well you play. It's about getting the result,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it was just about getting over the line, and absolutely brilliant. Taking us up the Gallagate, fantastic on the bus. It was like Zulu Dawn. They were coming out the pubs from everywhere, and it was a great spectacle. You know, it was absolutely brilliant.
The other thing, I've got to bring this up, for many years no one knew what Smell the Glove was about. You've mentioned Andy Gorham, and I think he claimed ownership for a few years that it was all down to him. But I think you've played a part in this as well, Tosh.
I
Smell
get the
the Glove.
t-shirts. That was
I'm so glad you've asked this question because I've wanted to know this for years.
Nothing really a lot in it, to be honest. Again, you get urban myths and ads, grow his arms and legs, and they said it was down to Gorham and stuff like that. But it wasn't. It was just a thing that we'd picked up. It was on a what called Marmot, Smell the Glove, I think. you're into your music, so
Yes.
it was something to do
Spinal
with
Tap.
Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap.
It was to do with that. But it was just a wee catchphrase that looked quite good, you know. And it was at Kilmarnock. It used to go in the ward in there. Smell the glove, and it was just something to be. And then when people were saying what it was about, it was no, we can't tell you. And then they were adding their wee story to it, you know.
It becomes part of the myth.
Throws the gloves in and all that sort of stuff, you know. So, but I was responsible for getting the t-shirts made. And I better watch because the guy's not been paid yet. 25 years.
Did you keep it? Did you keep? Were you one of the footballers? Aye. Do you keep your jerseys and things like that?
Aye, no. It's getting back to that Brazil game. I've got Cafu's jersey.
Wow.
I think I sent you the photo I've.
Aye.
I don't know what he's doing with my jersey right enough, Tommy. Probably calling shoes with it or his boots, but no. Things like that. Gary Neville's jersey for Euro '96.
Mm-hmm. Tosh, some of the players you played with, homegrown players, and of course Tommy as a manager came through the ranks, and they would have approached the game in a certain way. But you played with some of these overseas guys like Pierre and Lubo and Andy Tom, George Cadet. What did they bring to the table? Were they a big influence on how to approach and train and maybe their diet?
Oh, you missed one out. Decano, he was the best trainer out of the lot of them.
Yeah.
Mad Skull right enough. Granty took him under his wing, and I think it was Holland we went. Germany it was for the first pre-season tour, and TV obviously said, Granty, you're in with Decano. They bought into what, you know, Granty would teach them a bit and vice versa. But I must say they all got the Celtic thing right away. Big Pierre. Andy Tom was a bit quieter, but some player, phenomenal player. George Cadet, Lubo, big Viduka. Big Viduka done the first training session. I said to him, you've done brilliant today, big man. Take the rest of the day off. He didn't come back for fucking 6 months. Your father was in dispute.
What a player. What a player. I mean, one final question. You're talking there about people coming in with no prior knowledge of Celtic really, and then learning the culture of the football club. How important is it to you, Tosh, for guys like John Clark to be around the building? How important is that? Because you spoke about him playing for Green. The guy's a legend. You know, Henrik talks about him preparing his kit, a Lisbon Lion. Mm-hmm. That's important, isn't it?
Well, I'd seen all the players. The beauty about me, I'd seen the tail end of the lines. Jinky was always about Barrowfield with the boys' club. Bobby Murdoch was brilliant. The best captain that we've ever had, iconic. He's presenting. I think I maybe sent you the photo presenting. Remember the old Plaza?
Yeah.
Celtic Boys Club used to have the presentation at the Plaza. Big Billy used to come and present the medals. Then you get to Celtic Park, and all these guys are about. The Buzz Bomb, Bobby Lennox, absolutely brilliant to be part of that history. And you're a Celtic player for the rest of your days, and joining in with all these greats. My period at Celtic's minuscule compared to these guys, but I can always say I lived the dream. Tommy Burns allowed me to live the dream to play for Glasgow Celtic.
Well, Tosh, thanks for joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.
No problem.
Brilliant. Pleasure,
Thanks,
brother.
Tommy.
Pleasure.
Thanks,
Brilliant, mate. Loved that.
Thanks again for joining us on This Is Acsom. Tosh McKinlay was an outstanding guest. Join us again next Friday night for A Celtic State of Mind.